Hey guys, playing a little Ace Combat today. This is footage I recorded a couple minutes ago. Just wanted to kind of, shoot the shit and talk about it. I really like this game. I played it all the way through. I got the medals. There's like I think the final DLC mission. I don't have S's on all difficulties, just Ace. So I guess technically it's not complete. I absolutely despise multiplayer. I tried it, and it was not fun. And in fact, the complaints I have about this game, a lot of it is rooted in the balancing they did, based on the fact that everything was going to be available in multiplayer. I think that was a huge mistake. For example, these lasers are broken as hell. This is a ground/air, mostly ground assault mission, and the fact I'm taking an F-15C and I'm gonna do ridiculously well. That's not really. I wouldn't call that balanced. Plus, the lasers are just like they're the best special weapon in the game. Most missions, it's going to be the best thing. In fact, the only mission it's not the best is the Anchorhead raid mission in the DLC, because the land attack cruise missile is better because of the distance you get to keep. But to be honest, the land attack cruise missile is that's pretty broken as well. In fact, on this mission, it's also broken. You just fire 2 of those at the platform. You don't have to aim for the core or anything, and it just takes the whole thing down. It's pretty broken. So this is not my best performance, but it's just me kind of just flying around, messing about in an F-15, blowing up things that probably an F-15 should not be able to blow up. But that's okay. I'm trying to think where I'm going to start with this. Oh my god, I was getting hit a lot. Once you get that fire extinguisher, you kind of just stop paying attention to glancing hits and stuff. But, again, the special parts in this, I really don't like the part system. The missiles are terrible, the standard missiles. They should have made the standard missiles as good as they are maxed out and just left them there. And I get it, and the way they balance it by making them terrible is giving you hundreds of them. They should just cut the ammo down so you actually have to think about them, because they recharge. Even if you run out, they recharge every like 15 seconds, so you never really run out. But they're bad. They're a lot like Ace Combat 4, and because the bots are a little better than they were in Ace Combat 4, it makes engagement really annoying, and you miss a lot of shots that you really, really should be given to you. And having played Project Wingman a lot, that plays a lot more like Ace Combat 0 in terms of how the missiles were handled. And I don't want to say you're spoiled, but the hits are a lot more sensical, to say the least, in terms of what you can hit and what you can't hit with the guidance. I think so. Project Wingman had, and I'm going to say the advantage is the fact that they didn't try to do any multiplayer balancing, which led to experimentation with the special weapon system. And the special weapon system in Project Wingman, it's just superior to the special weapon system in Ace Combat 5. The special weapons in Ace Combat 5, for the most part, are a little more diverse. But you can have so many different special weapons on different aircraft, unlike in Ace Combat, where you are limited to 3, and you can only take them one at a time, which means you usually maybe end up using 1 or 2 if there's a switch off, if there's a place to resupply. But primarily, with most aircraft, you just kind of pick whatever the optimal special weapon is. For example, the unguided bombs, they're pretty much useless. You're better off just upgrading your missiles all the way and adding fast reload. The unguided bombs they just do not deliver. And I'm trying to think if there's I don't think there's a special weapon worse than that in terms of usefulness. Which is a shame, because there's a lot of aircraft that have the unguided bombs, because they're just like, oh, they have to have some kind of air to ground, and then they're stuck with the unguided bombs, and they're not They're just not as useful as whatever the other special weapon is. And they would be fine, but the issue is you can, like, once you take that takes up that slot. And then if you haven't used any parts to make them better, they're really not that great. That's the case with most of the special weapons. And that's the case with the regular missiles as well. They're really not that great unless you upgrade them. I think in this, I upgraded the reload speed. I'm not even sure if I upgraded the damage. But they're just not... It's just not as good as they should be. And you end up having to spend points on the parts. And it's more annoying. I wish the airplane was just preset in one configuration. Maybe like there was like a mod or something where you can like upgrade the aircraft's maneuverability or upgrade the aircraft's anti-stall or something. Maybe something like that could be unlocked. But the whole basically operate with suboptimal missiles if you want to have while nerfing your aircraft is it's silly. I haven't noticed a huge benefit to the maneuver stuff. You notice the speed changes, but the maneuver buffs, there's not really a huge difference. So pretty much everything you're going to do is weapons buffs, weapons parts, and some aircraft you really can't choose that many weapons parts. So like the F-22, for example, you can't really do much to upgrade the weapons. It's still one of the best aircraft in the game because of just how maneuverable and also has decent base special weapons. But it's not... It takes a lot away from the gameplay when certain aircraft feel kind of useless or completely surpassed. Now, Project Wingman has this problem too, because once you unlock the super aircraft, the last one, there's no reason to use any other aircraft. And even in Conquest mode, you don't have to, like, purchase the aircraft. Like, you only purchase them once. So there's no reason to ever fly the other terrible aircraft, especially if you're playing on Mercenary difficulty. And the amount of enemies that show up are excessive, so you kind of don't really have a chance unless you use the super plane. And still then, it's challenging. It's a fun game mode. But they, at least during the campaign, they didn't have to worry about balancing stuff in multiplayer. You just had the weapons you had, and I wish that there was more, like the detonating missiles. Those are awesome. The big giant cordium bomb. I guess it's technically a tactical nuke. That's awesome. That's just kind of fun to use, but you can't use it in campaign, and I really wish you could. Especially the remote detonating missiles. Those are a lot of fun. But for the most part, though, you can put cannons on almost anything. You can use long-range multi-lock missiles for air-to-air, air-to-ground in the campaign mode, and you don't have to take just those. You can take a more of a wide variety of weapons, so you can actually fill a multi-role. I guess a multi-role stance or position. I guess that's the correct word when you're flying around. So you don't have to. You can take some of those decent anti-air or long-range missiles, just in case you run into something that you don't want to deal with from a distance. Or in a lot of the cases, you can take the anti-capital ship missiles, just to have that little extra edge for a few of the enemies that show up, without committing your entire loadout to one specific task. And that wouldn't be as much of a problem if you had control over your squadron and your squadron actually did stuff. Because in Ace Combat 5, that was really the first game where the special weapons really changed the way, I should say, the missions went. The special weapons meant a lot. But what was cool about that was you could decide not only what special weapon, or I should say, not what aircraft you took that came with whatever special weapon, but you could also decide, I remember this is ridiculous, you could also decide to equip your wingman with different aircraft and special weapons. And what that did is that basically allowed you to, fill the attack roll and then have have your wingman cover you, or have them use an attack aircraft to deal with ground target, and then you deal with the air target. It gave you just that little bit of extra flexibility so you could really approach a mission the way you wanted to. As opposed to this, where it's all on you, and there's going to be an optimum selection. Not that you should take an A-10 to the air-to-air fight, but there's the missions that are like ground attack. The A-10's useless. Not only did they nerf the armor, they nerfed the particularly the gun, which should be amazing. It's not. It's actually pretty weak. It really can't dogfight. So the extra health it has doesn't really do you any good because you can't really maneuver, and you have to dogfight. I'm trying to think, like, there aren't any missions where dogfighting is not a significant part of your survivability. And it was like that in 5 as well, but the difference with 5 is that you could put you could assign your teammates really good anti-air air-to-air or anti-air weapons, and then you don't have to deal with the enemy aircraft nearly as much. Also, the cannon wasn't garbage, so you could fill the role of an attack aircraft and not have to worry that much. In 7, and this started in 6, maybe it happened on the PSP ones as well, but as far as I remember, it started on 6. You pretty much have to pick something that has at least some anti-air capability. Otherwise, you're going to get you're just going to get annihilated, because your friends are not going to get the enemies off your back. You can't order them to cover you. You can't and likewise, if you actually need to destroy ground targets or a boss, you better have the right aircraft for that as well, because you can't. You're not going to be getting any help from your teammates. You have no control over what aircraft they take, and they just kind of flutter around. Sometimes they do damage. Most of the time they do not. A lot of the times there's targets, you see them shooting them, and they actually can't do damage to them. I don't know what that's about. That's actually really annoying. I guess that's so that you can get the maximum score. But maybe that should be its own mode, like score attack or something, because I want to actually feel like I'm part of a unit that's doing something, not that everything is on you. And I get maybe the primary objectives, like that's your responsibility, so you should, select your plane and load out around that, just to a certain degree. But the fact your squadron doesn't do anything, they most of the time they might as well not be there. That's pretty disappointing, especially because of the fact that Ace Combat 5 already did it right. They already did it really well. And 7 and 6 and don't even get me started on Assault Horizon. They really took that away. And it's not like they don't know how to do it. They do know how to do it. They've done it before. And there's only, with the technology particularly, there's only going to be improvements at this point, I would assume. But I don't know. I don't know why they've regressed with the squadron stuff, because that was that was by far the most fun I had, and also I felt committed to my squadron more because not only because the narrative was better in 5, it really is the best narrative of all of them, because you actually care about your squadron, but because you had control over their tactics and you had to choose their aircraft and whatnot, you had like. It gave you a sense of responsibility for the actual, the squadron you were commanding, or rather leading into battle. Although you did have some command over them during gameplay, because you could tell them to cover you, or to use their special weapons, or to attack a target, or just disperse and just kind of do their own thing if they're getting on your nerves for some reason. I usually had them with me as a group. Sometimes I would tell I think, could you tell the other two to disperse and then just keep Nagase with you? I'm trying to remember how it worked, but it was rudimentary, but it worked, and it made you feel like you were actually part of a unit. And I think that's part of the when you see Ace Combat 7 particularly and 6 reviewed, nobody talks about your friends. They don't they talk about kind of the characters in meany ways, but there's not like, oh, and I cared about this person and I wanted to save them. They're like, you know, like nobody's had, even in positive reviews, any sort of emotional impact with what's going on. In this one, Wiseman dies. I guess in 6, it's I forget who it is. You know what? I think your wingman survives, but he gets shot down. Garuda 2 gets shot down. Salt Horizon, it's Guts. I think Guts gets shot down too. I don't know if he dies or not. I don't remember. I played through that game twice, and I hated it a lot, so that could be its own video. But that's my talk about the Ace Combat 7 gameplay. I like it, but I feel like they've taken steps backwards from what they had in 5 and in the other games.